So, a while back, I saw this picture made by the artist Galaxara, and while I love practically everything she does, this one sparked a kind of creative energy in me that I really needed to channel. If you would like to see anything else she does, I'll put her links in the description. I would highly recommend checking her out because she's awesome. Anyway, this picture has been both the inspiration for this painting and this video, as in, I'd like to talk a bit about my opinions on inspiration and touch on the subject of references. And please note, these are all observation based opinions. It's just kind of things I've been thinking about, and this is the first time I ever really put it down as a bunch of words. So, sorry if I'm rambling, as per usual. Inspiration can come from anywhere. It's a movie, a painting, an experience, even a sentence said around the lunch table. I know a lot of my small funny doodles comes from conversations I've had while eating lunch with other people. And inspiration can really be anything: an animated movement, a specific way a musical piece moves you, or even a new painting technique you've seen someone utilize in a special way. It will all collect in your subconsciousness, whether you like it or not, to be honest. Once in a while, though, you stumble across something that becomes a direct inspirational reference, just as it's happened here. And if you're anything like me, you worry about it looking too similar to the original piece. Worrying too much about that, though, only fosters a very strong fear of not creating. Well, a strong fear of creating, making you not create. The idea of not being original enough, copying other people's work, stuff like that. It can really be a chain around your neck, to be honest. And the only way I have found to get out of this fear is to work with that initial inspiration. I'll come back to how exactly I do this, but first I'd like to talk about the notion that nothing original exists. Everything you can think of has been thought about before, stuff like that. And this I do find is quite true, but then again, we are individuals. We're a collection of our experiences, of our ideas, and the things we have seen. Thus, an old idea can manifest itself in quite a different way when it's channeled through you or me or anything else like that. We can sit down with the same sketch and create two pieces fairly different from each other. Anyway, so this notion also led me to think about how this piece exactly flared this inspiration within me. And up until I saw Galaxara's piece, I had been seeing a lot of space comedy anime and been excited about some new sci-fi books I've just bought, and I would believe that this influx of ideas just needed this perfect push of a visual that I adored to get me into gear and collect this bubbling pot of ideas into a single creation. With that said, though, I still felt like I needed to make it my own, and this is where the fear of copying comes back. There are two ways I felt helped me in molding a direct inspiration from a copy into my own piece. The first one is to grab my sketchbook and just get the copy version out of my system, slowly working it into something else. This method, however, needs time to evolve and further ideas to collect, and at some point you come back to it with a new idea or a new technique and the ability to transform it. Up until then, though, it's just a way of getting it out of your system. You don't even know if the way you've done this idea may play into something you make later on. As an example, when I work on design, I start with examples of what I want the end result to look like. All kinds of ideas from different sources, put them all into a mood board. And sometimes I need to create something similar to one of the sources before I can let it get out of my head, out of my system. The difference here is that these are nothing but sketches, a pool of creation to get my thoughts into gear, and the more I work with it, the more I find possible ways to distance myself from the original. As an example, the placement of a shape can lead to the placement or shape of a text box in a completely other kind of way. The other way I found helps is to have the original as a theme or as a technique, but only let it stay that way. In this case, for example, I kept the notion of a sci-fi merchant, but used my own technique, style, and feel. I know what sparked my idea, but I refuse to let it become my idea. Usually it's hard to keep the two apart, and when this happens, it's always a good idea to try the before mentioned method. This all sounds so calculated and forced when you say it out loud, but to be honest, from my experience, this is how it works for me. Before I round this up, I want to touch a bit on reference as well. And in my optic, there are two ways of using reference. The first one is to get something right. Like if you want to draw a bicycle, it helps to have a reference photo of a bicycle. Seriously, there are videos out there showing people drawing a bike from memory, and the results are subpar. Here's a little experiment for you. Draw a bike from memory, then go look at what a bike actually looks like. I don't know about you, but even though I've been using a bike most of my life and live in a country where a bike is on par with cars when it comes to transport, I still couldn't remember how it looked like. It turned out pretty silly. Anyway, that's an aside. Reference is a tool. It's just a tool for when you want to make sure something looks right, or a tool for when you want to get into an idea or a feeling or a thought. As in the other way, I use references is as a mood board to kickstart creative juices. Kind of the opposite of collecting inspiration subconsciously, I collect references consciously. I use this to make the Treant picture during the Inktober challenge. I wanted to draw this creature, but I had no idea where to start, so I just collected a ton of references on how other people draw tree creatures, how they create wooden textures, even how others make the gigantic proportions work. Then I had those close by to keep me going when I stopped and didn't know how to proceed. It doesn't even have to be references of the same creature you're creating, just parts of it. Again, the important part is to keep it as a mood board. It is not your sketch, it is a tool on par with your brush. Utilize it instead of using it. So, wrapping up, inspiration comes from everywhere, and you should not be afraid to utilize it. You wouldn't have the computer or phone you're watching this video on if it wasn't for calculators. You are allowed to draw inspiration from others, but to truly make it your own, it should be mixed with your past experiences and ideas and be allowed to manifest itself through your personal vision and abilities. I think this is all for me now. If you have anything you'd like to add to the discussion, want to tell me I'm wrong about, or simply ideas of how I could improve anything, be it video, painting, or speech, please share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, if you're ever in doubt, ask. The awkwardness of asking will always be easier to tackle than the regret of the unknown. So, take care. Bye.